I can hear you, Bob.
Okay, there's Rich. Now we need our fearless leader, Ben. Oh, I see his name. There he is. Do-do-do.
How's it going?
It's 12:09.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm incredibly humble and honored to have these three amazing speakers today. And so basically for this event, we're just going to be kicking off what is financial literacy, what is financial inclusion. We're going to cover a couple different topics, including investing, credit and how to navigate it, managing your spending, and then just career advice for you guys. And so I want to start off by basically just introducing you guys to the three amazing speakers we have today. So first we have Bob Gillingham. Bob has been the owner of a Ford dealership in Cleveland, which is in Ohio, for those of you who don't know. And he has been doing that for the past 30 plus years. Bob has taught tens of thousands of students his coveted Finvest How to Become a Millionaire program, where he takes the very complicated subject of investing and makes it simple and easy for any high school student to use and apply to their own life. Alongside Bob is Rich Hoag. He is a formal electrical engineer, and he has also gone all across the US with Bob teaching the Finvest program. And last but not least is Ryan Bayonnet. I had the chance of meeting Ryan a couple months back when we at Ohio State had him on as a speaker. And so Ryan graduated from Akron with a degree in economics, and then went to The Ohio State University to master in finance. And then in 2017, he went on to start Highland Financial Planning, where he has been working diligently ever since. And then I guess for me, I am a incoming junior at Ohio State University, and I am pursuing a degree in finance and logistics. And so, so we will just start off with a brief question and get everybody started. So one question for all of you guys: how did you guys each get started in FinMango? And we'll start with Bob.
So I think Scott had mentioned it a little bit early on. He and I were at University of Akron doing a class to a bunch of high school students from the Akron area, and we were both asked to be speakers. He had primarily had a program aimed at grade school kids and even junior high school kids. My program was sort of a turnover from junior achievement. So I was talking mostly to high school kids. And we started comparing notes, and it turns out that we both had the same passion for this. I was really envious when I read the program about what Scott had done with FinMango. Little did I know that that was right the first year of FinMango. So it was really exciting for me, and because I got a chance to bring my How to Become a Millionaire program to a nonprofit that had some great organization and had a lot more scale than I did. So that's basically how I did it. I've always thought that, you know, I could teach more than just junior achievement was. I could actually get down in the down and dirty of investing and show kids how they could actually get started doing it.
Thanks, Bob. And Rich, how did you get started with FinMango?
Okay, Ben. Well, Mango Bob and I belong to the same church. And third Sunday of every month, we have what's called Donut Sunday, where they just basically set up the church and or the hall, and we have donuts and talk. And I saw Bob sitting over there, and I ran a girls basketball program that his daughter participated in, and I coached softball, and his daughter was on the softball team. So I knew him. I just went over and talked to him, and you know, we were just talking about family life and other topics. And he mentioned that he was teaching this How to Become a Millionaire class to local high school students. And I asked him if I could come and just observe. And he agreed. And luckily, we were having a course for our local parish school in about 2 weeks. So I went to that course. I met Scott and Stefan. And basically at that point, I heard the presentation. I was hooked. I continued to attend classes at various different high schools as Bob was speaking. And eventually I started teaching some small segments of the course. Then I took over and basically put everything that we had on copies of paper into a PowerPoint. And now we have a real nice program that route. And I became the man behind the curtain. If you think about the Wizard of Oz, Bob's out front speaking, and I do the video in the background. But when we get too many classes in a day or it gets too much for Bob, I step out from behind the curtain and I either teach a class or I'll take a school for him. But basically he does 90% of the upfront work and I sit behind the scenes. So that's my involvement.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Ryan, how did you get involved with Mango?
Yeah, I started with Mango in July of last year. So Mango, Scott, and I actually went together, and I really didn't keep up with what Scott was doing. But a few months, probably beginning of 2019, I started to notice Mango all over my social media feeds on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. And eventually came out to find that Scott was the one behind it all. So I gave Mango Scott a call to learn a bit more about Mango, since I really loved the course and wanted to see how I could get involved and really haven't looked back. So I've served as on more of the domestic team as an advisor to some of the college interns, and like Ben said, have come out and done some speaking engagements.
Awesome. All right, well, we're gonna start out with investing, because that's where Mango has seen the biggest area of returns as far as participants. And so Bob, let's start with you. So if I'm a high school student who's interested in getting into the stock market, what do you recommend that I would do first? Like, where do I start?
So I don't typically go in, or none of us go in and just say, this is what you should invest in. Basically, what we're trying to do is educate you. And I would just, Ryan is the expert. We know a fraction of what Ryan does, but we try to keep it simple, is the first suggestion I would make. It doesn't have to be complicated. Whenever investing gets complicated, you might be in over your head. I want to keep it easy. So a lot of us don't have a lot of time to divert to studying investing, studying all the concepts. So in that case, you really need somebody like Ryan who can lead you through the jungle, so to speak. Then the next suggestion I would make is to make it diversified. So what most kids have experienced in high school is a stock market picking game. I think that's the worst thing they can be doing. So I would never suggest somebody buy individual stocks. My promotion is through index funds. So I would suggest like a S&P 500 index fund. Next suggestion is steady. Don't try to time the market. Dollar cost average, which means putting a certain amount of money in at a regular time interval. The next suggestion is keep the expenses low. The lower the expenses, the more potential you have in returns. The second to last one is start early. The earlier you start, the more compounding you can get in your favor. And the last thing is try to do it in a way to keep you from paying taxes. So that would be called a Roth IRA.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that. All right, so then moving on to Ryan. So since you've had a lot of experience, like you went through a master's program, you've had a lot of hands-on experience with investing, what do you think are some common mistakes that you often see people making when they get started with investing?
Yeah, I would say the most common mistake I see is something actually Bob just mentioned, is the idea that you need to wait till later in life to begin investing. Starting early is really going to pay off. I can give you even a real life example with that. Two investors, the first age 18 when they start saving and the second age 45. If that 18-year-old investor started saving $5 a month, like Bob mentioned, into just a simple S&P stock index fund, they would have around $70,000 by the time they reach retirement. And in the meantime, they would have saved only about $3,100. Now compare that to a second investor that waits until age 45 to begin. If they wanted to save all the way up to that $70,000 like the 18-year-old investor, they would need to set aside almost $65 a month. And by the time it's all said and done, they would have set aside around $19,000. So compare that $19,000 to the $3,100 that the 18-year-old investor saved, and that means they had to save 6 times more because they didn't get into the stock market early and participated in all that growth.
Awesome. That's a great example.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to Rich. So if you could go back in time, say all the way back to when you were 18 years old, what do you think you would have done differently regarding investing? And what advice would you give to that 18-year-old you?
Man, I'd love to go back to 18. As far as investing goes, I didn't get started until I was 27. I became a millionaire at age 60. I did it through what Bob mentioned was dollar cost averaging. The earlier you get started, the better off you are. Both Ryan and Bob have mentioned that, and I'm just going to echo it for the third time. Doesn't matter when you start, as long as you get started at an early age. In our programs, we have examples of twin brothers that start at age 19 and 27, and there's a $300,000 or $700,000 difference at age 65 when they take their money out. You got to start now. It doesn't take a lot of money. He used a $5 example. That was a great example. I'm sure you can all miss one Starbucks this month and put $5 in an account. So that's what you want to do, is start early and do dollar cost averaging. Keep it in a fund that is a no-load fund so you don't pay any upfront fees. Get a low expense ratio fee and let it grow for you. Because if you take our class or have had our class, or you come back tonight at 10 o'clock and see our class, you'll see that the market goes up and down. But even though it goes down, like we're in a bad time right now, the Great Depression in 1929, it turned around and ultimately went higher and higher. That's going to happen again. It's going to take some time. Bear markets, which we're in, tend to last 1.8 years. But guess what? They turn around and come back and go up even higher than what they were before.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so let's move a little bit away from investing and let's go into credit. So Bob, I know that you have a lot of experience with different teaching kids kind of like not only investing, but understanding credit and some of the misconceptions that they can have regarding it. So what have you found are the main things that people don't really know about credit? And what advice would you give to people who are looking to open up a credit card or get started with that?
So 2 common misconceptions about credit. And you know, it's amazing how many people I talk to. In fact, I was one of them when I first started. I graduated from University of Illinois, and then I went into the Army for a couple years. I didn't owe anybody anything, 0. So after I got out of the Army, after having a college degree, went to work for my dad, you know, with 0 debt, no college debt, no credit card debt. And I said, well, maybe I'll just open a credit card. Turned out I couldn't open a credit card on my own. Okay, I didn't qualify. Even though I didn't owe any money, even though I had a college degree, and even though I had 0 debt, they said, you don't qualify, you have to get a cosigner. Could your dad cosign you for you? So, well, I just didn't understand that debt is built up slowly. And a credit card is one of the tools that you can do to help build up your credit. But you have to start off possibly with either some money as a collateral, which would be a secured credit line, a secured credit card, or the other thing you can do is get a parent to sign along with you. So that would be my first suggestion, is that just because you don't owe any money doesn't mean you have good credit. It just means you have no credit. Okay, so that's something that every college student should think about doing, even in a small amount. The second big misconception that I run into is that people that pay off their credit cards in full every year or every month, they don't have any what we call sloppy credit, where they're late on the credit card payment, or they miss a payment here or there. But what they don't realize is that if you're going to have credit, you need to make sure that your available credit is never really approached as far as how much you charge at any one time. So the general rule is like 30%. And that's what I was told anyway, that if you charge over 30% of your available credit, that is going to be negative points towards your credit score. One of the quickest ways you can improve your credit score, if you do have some credit out there, is to never charge over your 30% limit. Not 30% limit, but 30% of your limit. So if you have $10,000 available credit card out there, don't charge over $3,000 before you pay it off. Okay, so that would be my second big misconception. Both of those really can be approached pretty easily by any individual that's trying to improve their credit score.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so now let's move on to Ryan. So Ryan, how important do you think it is for young adults to open up a credit card? Do you find that people can get by with just a debit card, or would you recommend people starting like when they're 18 with a credit card?
As long as the credit card is managed responsibly, then yes, I recommend getting started as soon as possible. Just like Bob mentioned, they do have a lot of great benefits, and getting started building credit early and effectively is going to pay off. Now, I'll say when you get started, ease into it. Maybe make one purchase per month and turn around and pay off the entire balance at the end of the month. And that will get you in the habit of spending, paying off. And what we don't want to happen is quickly running up this new credit card debt.
Awesome. And just a kind of an add-on question, where would you recommend as far as resources for someone trying to find out what credit card they should go with? Like, what are some of the things that they should look for when deciding like what should be the credit card they go with?
Yeah, so the first card, Bob mentioned the collateralized credit cards. That is a good starter if either you don't have good credit or don't have a cosigner, and really in those circumstances, you're putting a little bit of money down as collateral. And as long as you continue to make your payments, you can eventually switch to more of a traditional credit card. I would look up front for cards that don't have significant fees, because the high fee credit cards typically come with high benefits. If you're starting out spending and you want to start low, those benefits aren't going to pay off, and the fees are going to be really counteractive and make you pay more. So look for those low cost, almost student level or entry cards.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Ben, and that's great. I think you hit all the subjects with that. I would just add one thing that might enable you to get a credit card without either a cosigner or making a secured credit card. And that would be going to the bank that you and your family have both dealt with. So if you can get the manager at your bank to, if you could make an appointment, meet with him, tell him that you're trying to become financially responsible, you're trying to establish credit, and you would like to open a credit card in your own name, and say, look, I have a debit card. I've had savings accounts with you right along for the last 5-10 years. I would love to have the opportunity to open a credit card if you might be able to do that for me. So depending on how well that bank manager knows your family and knows the responsibility that you've shown with your debit card, he may just go ahead and approve a credit card with a small limit just to get you started without having to have a secured credit card. and possibly even without having to have your parents sign along with it.
That's great advice.
Hey, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of add on to what Bob and Ryan have talked about is specifically for young people, when you get a credit card, there may be something you want to purchase. Say like I use for girls, a prom dress, or for boys, a big screen TV for the Super Bowl game. You know you're going to need that purchase in a certain time frame. So start saving the money in your savings account now. All right. So when the Super Bowl comes up in January, when there's great deals, you go out and buy the TV on the credit card. Then when the credit card statement comes, you've got the money in your savings account to pay it off entirely. So you're doing some financial management even on that credit card purchase. But yes, it is very important, especially think about this. If you want to earn 9 to 10 or 11% in the stock market, you don't want to be paying on an outstanding balance on a credit card 15, 16, 17%. You're losing money every month. So that's why you want to keep the credit card at a zero balance. Thank you.
That's great advice. Because I feel like people can get caught up in that like 12% gain in the stock market, but then they don't think of the same as a 15% loss on that credit card. So that's great advice. So so we've covered investing, we've covered credit. Let's move on to one of the biggest areas that most people deal with in their day-to-day, which is just managing spending. So we'll start off with Ryan. I guess what are just some like techniques that you've personally used to spend less, save more, just generally manage your spending?
Yeah, and this is a very difficult question. We all love to spend money, and figuring out how to spend less is even more difficult. The first thing I look for is to find out why you want to save more money. What is your major goal? Because that's going to be your piece of motivation when you're considering spending money on something you may not need. You'll always be able to think back to your original goal and remember why in the first place are you saving? Make it really worth it. Second, track that progress. It's impossible to figure out how to improve your savings without analyzing what you're spending on. And I'll almost break this down into two parts where there's a budgeting and then reviewing. I would say first, create a budget on how you plan on spending that income. And then once the month is over, take a look back and review your spending and see if that budget you created was accurate. So you can use one of the many free apps like Mint or Personal Capital are free and let you do this. You could even put it together in a simple Excel file. But at the end of the month, you'll be able to look back and see how you can improve or how you did. And I'll say I kind of equate this to how coaches watch film. So prior to a big game, the coach will take a look at the film of the other team and see what strategies they can use to win the game. And then following the game, they'll actually look back at film of their own team and see why those strategies did or didn't work. And kind of the same philosophy comes with spending. We can only conquer the problem if we know what it is.
Well, thank you. I like the coach analogy. That's a good way to look at it.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to Rich then. So someone knows they have a spending problem. They're spending way too much money. They're not saving enough. They're saving pretty much none of their paycheck. What would you recommend that they do if they know they have a problem, and how do they go about solving that?
Okay, well, first of all, it's great that they recognize they have a problem. All right. The first thing you have to do is kind of what Ryan mentioned. You have to establish a budget. And what that means is, say for 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, you write down on a ledger every expense that you have. Okay. You total up your expenses. You see what your income is. You look at yourself and say, on that list of expenses, what did I really not need to buy that month? Did I really need to go to Wendy's? Did I have to go to McDonald's? Did I need to have that Starbucks? Okay. Did I have to go to the bar after work with the guys and have a drink? Those are the kind of things you can cut out. Okay. My wife works with a group that does this every month for people that are in financial straits. And the first thing they look at is their expenses and their income. And you've got to cut down your expenses before you can start saving, especially if you're in a situation where you're starting to get out of hand and you're spending more than you have and you're putting it on credit cards, and then you're hitting that interest and the minimum monthly payments, and that kills you. So look at where you're spending, look at what you can cut out. And it's always important when you build that budget, after you've looked at these expenses, to pay yourself first. Always put that $20 or $30 a month away. Pay yourself first. And that's how you're going to be able to start investing.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, and then Bob, as a business owner for the last 30 plus years, I'm sure that you've had a lot of managing of spending to do. So what would be some points that you would want to add?
You're muted, Bob.
So there's one thing that I would say that combines what Ryan and Rich both said, and that is a lot of us are using credit cards now, where Rich and I used to pay cash for everything. I still like to pay cash for most things except for big purchases on my credit card. So here's what happens. When you use a credit card, you really sometimes, or they've proven it, that you're going to spend more than if you paid something with cash. Just because you have to take it out of your wallet and you don't want to break a $20 bill, or you don't want to break a $50 bill or whatever. My suggestion is you give yourself a weekly budget. It could be $100, it could be $200, whatever it is. Okay? Put that cash in your wallet, and then for most purchases, go ahead and use that cash. You know, if you're going to buy a big screen TV, if you're going to take your family out to dinner or something like that, that might be different. But otherwise, I would keep your small purchases all out of your wallet. Okay? And what that's going to do is, as you get close to the end of the week and you're running a little bit low, I think the natural tendency is to maybe cut down what you would have bought at the fast food place, maybe to skip the Starbucks trip that day or whatever, so you're still able to keep within that weekly budget that you've allocated yourself of cash in your pocket. So I would stay away from using credit cards for small purchases.
Thank you. And then I guess I just have something to add as like a college student that I've realized is that no matter how much you know about what you should be doing in regards to saving, spending, planning, what it comes down to is a lot of it is mental too. It's like an emotional. Your friends want to go see a movie. It's not, okay, I mean, I could use this money to save it. It's, I want to go to this movie because it's what all my friends are doing. And so I think that problem can like be a big thing too, where like it's more of it can be more of an emotional thing. And so I think just having that like emotional stability and not feeling pressured into spending money or spending money like to make yourself happy, I think can be a big thing too. Just to acknowledge that it's not just what you know, it's just like that emotional element to it. So
Good point.
So we've covered a lot of different topics, a lot of ground. Let's move it back to saving, one of the key financial literacy ideas. So we'll start off with Rich. Rich, what are some of the first steps that a parent / young adult should take when planning for college?
Wow, you're catching me 40 years late. Boy, can you defer to somebody else? Let me think about that.
Yeah, we'll go with Ryan. What are your thoughts on planning for college?
Yeah, so I think two major points. I'd say the first is going to be don't put savings for college for a child or a grandchild before your own retirement savings. You can always make up, there's student loans, there's grants, there's scholarships. There's nothing like that for retirement. On top of that, that being said, educate the student on different costs of universities. What is an out-of-state versus in-state school cost? What does it cost to live on campus versus live at home? Make sure that that student is fully educated, because student loan debt, even though you take it on at age 17 or 18, it's real money that sticks around with you. So educating the student as much as possible is really going to pay off.
Bob, do you have something to?
Yeah, I'll step in. So the first thing I would say, and this goes along with our investing and our savings deal, you can't start too soon. So when you have a baby, that's the time to start saving for college. Okay. When the kid is, just born, you don't typically have a ton of expenses like you do when they're teenagers. So take some of that money that maybe you were going to do on just making yourself feel good as opposed to the kid, and take that money and put it in, start a college fund. It could be a 529 plan, or it could be a Roth IRA. And so that would be the first suggestion, is start early and be aggressive with that money, because they don't need that money for 15 to 20 years. So if you start when they're born, you've got some really good compounding available to you. The second thing is don't forget about your parents. So the kids' grandparents can be another source of money for college. The great thing about grandparents is that doesn't count against the student's FAFSA, which is their financial aid availability based on their income and their parents' income. Okay, so if the grandparent is able to save some money, and instead of buying them all these toys and clothes that actually scatter the house, if they instead would start an investment plan, go to Ryan, say, hey, Ryan, I've got a kid that was just born. I want to start putting some money aside for this grandson so he can afford college. And I'm sure Ryan would come up with a great aggressive place that he could put that money for you. So those are a couple ideas. You can't start too early, and don't forget to tell your parents that they can help out a lot more than, instead of buying all this superfluous stuff that the kids, throw around the house and grow out of in 3 months. They could actually put it to good use by putting it into a college fund.
And for all the high school students and young adults out there that will have like kids that are going to go to college and they're going to have to pay for college, College Credit Plus is an amazing option available. It's something that I personally did in high school, where I was taking classes at a local university that counted for both high school and college. So you're essentially getting free college classes, and then you can save an entire year of college. So if anyone is in the United States, I know that they have that as an option, but also the idea of just looking for those options, because trust me, they're not going to tell you that they exist, but you gotta search for them.
So one quick addition, Ben, and then I'll let Rich. I think Rich has come up with some ideas. Don't forget a community college for your first or maybe even your second year of college. Mm-hmm. So those are going to typically be your basic classes that you have to do, whether you're at Ohio State, Cleveland State, or Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College. But they cost a lot less at Cuyahoga Community College than they would at Ohio State. Plus, if you're really trying to save some money, you probably can still live at home while you're going to Tri-C. So that would be 2 super ways to save a lot of money.
Awesome. And then Rich.
Hey, Ben. Basically, my 3 daughters went to a Catholic grade school and then went to a Catholic high school. So I didn't have a whole lot of money to save for them for college. So what I did was I made them work to pay for their gas money for their cars and things like that. But I paid whatever I paid their high school year for tuition, I gave them towards college. And then I tasked them with, they had to have student loans. That gave them some skin in the game, so dad wasn't paying for everything. But then also scholarships, a big portion. All of my daughters had scholarships, whether they be academic or athletic. There are scholarships that go out there every year unclaimed. There are scholarships for people like Mr. Gillingham who are left-handed. There are scholarships for people who are only juniors in high school. Once you get your senior year, they're no longer available. My company had scholarships. My credit union had scholarships. Have the parents seek out their employer and see what's out there. Bob, you have an online, don't you have a website or something that you can mention where you send kids to look for scholarships?
Yeah, I think if you just Google college scholarships, you're going to come up with a ton. The other suggestion is I would be my guidance counselor in high school's best friend or worst enemy. I would be in there every week asking her or him for new ideas on where I might be able to get scholarships. Sometimes you can get scholarships from the local veterans groups, American Legion, VFW, by simply writing an essay about Americanism or what you think of the flag or patriotism. Sometimes the local grade schools will offer scholarships to kids that went to their grade school. So, and then sometimes people that have jobs, their employer will sometimes offer scholarships. So you have to look at all those different opportunities, plus being a real good friend of your high school guidance office.
Oh yeah, Rich.
Ben, one last thing from my standpoint is, I know a lot of kids when they're 18 and 19 years old say they want to go away to college and get out of the house. Yeah, that's great if you can afford it and it fits in your master plan. I lived outside of Toledo. Of course, you know, you're from Perrysburg. I'm from Maumee. I went to the University of Toledo. So I commuted to my college. I didn't have to pay room and board. That saved a lot of money. Of course, there's gas money, but hey, that was a lot cheaper than paying for room and board. So I suggest, even though your parents may not want you to stay at home, it might be a financial benefit, save you $10,000 a year by not paying room and board and staying at home, going to college locally.
And then so we have a question from Katie. She says, mentioned a Roth IRA when kids are little. Is that in their name or in your name? So I guess goes out to any of you guys.
So that
So-
would need to be, oh, Bob, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So a Roth IRA can only be opened if the person is working. So if the child currently has a part-time job, you can contribute on a Roth IRA in their behalf up to the point of how much they're making. So if they make $2,000 in the summer, you can put $2,000 in their Roth IRA. If they're not yet working, you would use your own personal Roth IRA.
So I would add that you can both do IRAs. In fact, your grandparents, if they're still working, they can do a Roth IRA. So you could actually have the mom, the dad, the mom if she's working, the dad, the kid, and the grandparents could all have IRAs, and they're not going to count against your FAFSA until they're used. So as long as they're retirement accounts, I would use those as the last part of the funding for their college. So if they're using it as a senior in college, so they're paying for the senior year with their retirement plan money, as long as they don't use it till their senior year, it never gets computed into the FAFSA computations. So that would be, so if they use it for their first year or their second year, and then they reapply for the FAFSA, then it would count against them, even though it was retirement money. So it won't get counted as long as you use it for the back end of their college. Is that right, Ryan?
That's correct. Yep, it does come in effect of FAFSA, but if it's at the end, like you said, and there's no more years down the road, it's a perfect alternative to a 529.
But it's a great idea for the grandparents to use.
Correct.
The key point to remember with the 529, or excuse me, with the Roth IRA is it has to be earned income. It has to come from some type of a job, be it babysitting, cutting grass, your normal employment, part-time at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King's. There has to be some type of employment there.
But you don't have to pay taxes on it necessarily. And you don't have to have a regular formal paycheck. So if you're earning your money from babysitting, mowing lawn, cleaning out grandma's garage, whatever, just put it in a little notebook if you want to be completely safe. And if you ever have an IRS agent check on you and you can show them a little notebook that shows the dates and the amounts that you earned, they're going to turn around and they're going to say, what a waste of time this was, and they're going to get out of town.
All right, so now that I have made it through college, I've successfully paid for it, recent college grad, what do I do? What one piece of advice would each of you give as far as like a recent college grad starting a career? And I guess especially in these times where they're graduating, but the job market isn't really open, they're struggling to find opportunities. So we'll start off with Bob, what would be one just brief piece of advice to give that recent college grad?
So it's a simple one-word answer called internships. So you need to have internships. So my daughter hates it when I mention this, but, and I don't think she's watching this, so I'll say it. She had 3 different internships when she went to school down at University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And so she had an internship each of her last 3 summers, or actually, yeah, up the freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year summers. And they were all different internships. She did very well with them. They all wanted her to come back, but I suggested she try a different one. Because she tried 3 different internships, she had 3 different things she could put on her resume, number 1. Number 2, she had job offers from each of those 3 internships before she graduated her senior year. Plus, those 3 internships all paid pretty good money, and she was able to pay her own way through school. But that, and then she found out which type of job in engineering, she was mechanical engineering, she found out which type of job she really liked best. Did she want to go with an international company like Siemens? Did she want to go with a local company like Duke Energy? Or did she want to go with like an engineering firm? And that helped her make up her mind, as well as getting her 3 job offers, one of which she took, and also giving her some experience.
Wow, that's awesome. So Rich, we'll pass the torch to you. What would you give this recent college grad? What one piece of advice?
As far as job looking goes, I can't really say much about that because I worked for one company for 38 years from the time I graduated to the time I retired, something that is novel in today's environment. But what I can say is once you find that job, ask if they have a 401k plan. That is like a self-directed retirement plan within the company. And a lot of times, if you put in, say $100, they'll match 50 cents on a dollar, which is what my company did. So when I put in 100, they put in 50. That maxes out. I think you can only put in 16,500 a year for that. So that's instant 50% on your money. So whatever they do on the 401k, go to the max you can go to, what you can afford, max you can afford, and then keep increasing it as time goes on. When I started, I was putting $30 a month away in 1978. And when I finished, when I was 60 years old, 62, I was putting over $600 a paycheck away. So start small, grow over time, keep it in mutual funds while you're in your plan. So that's what you want to do first. Then if you have money left over after that, then you start looking at the Roth IRA and putting your money into there. So that's how you're going to invest once you have the job. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Ryan, as I guess, sort of a recent college grad yourself, what did you do when you were graduating and looking for opportunities?
I would say that I wish I would have done this better, probably. But the main thing I would look for is as a mentor. Find someone who either has the career or has the job that you want. Having a good relationship with that person is going to let you avoid a lot of the pitfalls for a new career. They're going to help give you information that you can't go out and find on the internet on those jobs. And as you continue to develop your career, they're going to know and be able to connect you with these opportunities that you may have not had. So finding that person, seeing what they did wrong, what they did right, will help you grow in your career quicker. And I'll say on top of that, if you end up being a mentee, try to be a good mentee, give back to them, make sure you're aware and value their time, and make sure as you take their advice that you're actually telling them how you used it and how it worked. Really, that'll help motivate them to continue to want to help you and work out because they're seeing that their advice is causing real progress. And having that person that you can go and talk to outside of your company is extremely valuable.
So Ben, one thing I would add is networking. So networking as opposed to going online and filling out 100 job applications online. So, people that do that hire hire college grads, you know, they probably hate looking at 100 job applications online as much as somebody hates filling out 100 job applications. It's a whole lot easier when you have somebody that works at the company that says, hey, I've got a good young lady or a good young man that's just graduating from Ohio State or Bowling Green or wherever it is, and I think we should give them a shot. That may not get them the job, but it probably will get them an interview, which is going to be a lot better than somebody that just leaves all their hope online.
Yeah.
There's another idea, which is look at associations, professional associations in whatever field you're in. And even while you're still in college, join those associations. So I bring up my daughter again. She was a mechanical engineer. And as a young lady, she joined SWE, SWE, I believe it is, Society of Women in Engineering. Because she did that, she had probably 15 to 20 other companies that were interested in hiring her just because of that exposure. So it could be sales, it could be engineering, it could be medical, it could be IT. Every one of those fields has their own organizations. And trust me, those organizations love to have young people join their groups because it just makes them feel better and then they all want to help them. So that's a great opportunity for a lot of networking and a lot of job offers before you even graduate.
Well, thank you for all the career advice, guys. Appreciate it. So we're approaching the 5-minute mark, 5 minutes left. I guess to end it off, I want to pass this question off to each of you. Similar to that same question, what do you think is one piece of financial advice that you would give to if you could, every 20-year-old in the nation or in the world? If you had that moment to just instill this one idea, topic, piece of advice, what would that be and why? And we'll start with Bob.
So I forgot one little thing that I would suggest, and I think this is a great way to end for me, is there's a website, and the website is called collegegrad.com, and it doesn't have to be for a college graduate. It could be somebody, a high school graduate, or even first or second year college student. But it's a website that has tons of information about how to set up a resume. It has tons of information about interviewing advice. And it also has tons of information on college or on career exploration, collegegrad.com. And it will show you, it just has tons of great information that you can peruse through and sort of give yourself a little heads up before you do that job interview, or before you're putting together that resume, to suggest how your resume may be able to be better viewed by the person that's doing the job selection.
So we'll move on to Rich. What are your thoughts on, if you could tell every single 20-year-old one idea, one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say that you need to get invested in the market, but do not, and I repeat, do not, and I'm telling you this from years of losing money in the market, do not get involved in individual stocks. Stick with mutual funds, stick with index funds, okay? Get started now. You're in your 20s. As I said, I started at 27, became a millionaire at 60 by putting a little bit away and gradually increasing. That's how you're going to do it. It's like the tortoise and the hare. Steady wins the race, okay? Start now, start early.
Perfect. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I would say to take your financial education into your own hands. Our world is really built to try to convince you to spend money. There's $1 million ads that run all day, every day. So read as much as possible, become curious about your own personal finances, because no one else is going to learn them for you. And right now is the easiest time to learn about this stuff. Continue to attend events like Extravaganza, take Bob's course, read a lot of the books that are available, audio books, even financial podcasts that are out there now. The information is everywhere. Go out and start learning and begin to apply those strategies to your life.
And then I'll add one quick thing for all the college students, high school students, is just don't put it off. It's one thing to know this. It's one thing to know that you should invest, know that it can help you. And it's another thing to actually do it. Because the truth is, a lot of people like know that they should be doing this investing thing, but then they don't. They just put it off. So I would say don't put it off. Think of that future millions of dollars that you'll have as having it now, and you're in that pursuit of it. It's not all the way in the future. Think of yourself on that path today and start now. So, Rich.
Ben, one final point from me is our financial investment class, How to Become a Millionaire, is a 3-hour course. We've created an online version that's an hour and a half, and Bob will be giving that tonight, right back here on this Zoom from 10 to 11:30 tonight. So everyone's welcome to come back.
And they're also giving away over $1,000 in scholarships to any high school students that tune in tonight for that class. So if you guys have a chance, you have a chance to win over $1,000 by just listening in.
You guys aren't going to want to miss that. I've gone through the course 3 times and it's really, really something. So, well, thank you, all of you guys, for coming in and tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the presentation throughout the course of the day, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.